Hi, everyone. My name is Nico. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with parted blonde hair, a red flannel shirt, and blue and brown spectacles. I'm seated in front of a purple wall and some bookcases. And like about 20% of the US population, I'm disabled. Non-disabled people might think that our disabled lives are dictated by fear, sickness, pity, maybe even sorrow, but I don't know. I've been disabled a long time now, and I think that disabled joy also has a place. In fact, if I had to only feel one emotion for the rest of my life, I would get pretty bored pretty quickly. However, the disability community has as many members as it has opinions, which is why I've asked my friend Neil here with me today to talk about disabled joy. Neil, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Neil, can you share a joyful memory with me? It could interact with your disability or it could not.
Well, I had one prepared and then I decided to do this down here in the barnyard. When I got to the barn, one of the baby goats had been left behind, and so it was unable to see its family. And then Nico and I reunited it with some calls. So that was joyful. It's joyful to see people in community, even if the people are goats.
That's true. So before we began recording, Neil called the goats over, and one thing that I noticed was that the goats were all traveling together, and I thought that was really beautiful, being in goat community. Neil, thank you for sharing that with me, and thank you for giving me credit that I frankly don't really deserve. But goats are very cute and also very smart, like remarkably intelligent.
Yeah.
Neil, how has being disabled affected your joy or your ability to pursue that happiness?
Well, how philosophical do you want me to be, or neurological?
As much as you want.
So I have spinal cord injuries. I have 3 of them, and then I also have developmental trauma from sexual violence, which is my main disability. So having your boundaries violated early and often in your life, not with the felony crimes, but with the way I was parented, which led to the crimes. In that type of authoritarian, compliance-based parenting, there is no room for joy. It's a fear-based control and command is how some people talk about it. We see it in our politics as well. That's why I asked how philosophical you want me to be. But at the end of the day, we're mammals. We have the same power structures as all herd or primates or mammals. We have alphas and whatever other numbers and letters you want to give people. I actually don't know how to computate human interactions against goats and elephants and pigs, but I see a lot of similarities. Temple Grandin, who has led me through my life with her writings, she talks about the seeking brain and the fear brain, and that's how she designed her revolutionary changes to the slaughterhouse industry. But what she doesn't always get into is something that I think is a missed opportunity, and that's joy. So the Panskep model of the human brain, or any mammalian brain, requires us to have 7 affect states. And the first one he discovered, but the last one listed is play in all caps and social joy. So play / social joy, it's the same structure in our bodies. And what an authoritarian wants is for that system to shut down and then to fire up the amygdala, the fear center, get people, that's what we call with fear mongering in politics. And it's directly related to my life experience as a vocational rehabilitation candidate, even with the Paralympic stuff I've done as an adaptive athlete. You can see people in competition with each other. They dominate, they suppress joy, they get aggressive and angry. They want you to become fearful. They want you to be in fight or flight. these are all very basic mammalian affects or emotional states. And so whenever you're talking to me about joy, just like love has many definitions, I like to use the capital J, capital O, capital Y, joy from the Panskep model, which means that if I'm not actively living a good life, when I say good life, I mean respecting my boundaries, which is a lot of my health issue over my lifetime. If I'm not giving myself time to do self-care, and if I cannot find people to help me meet those needs that I can't meet myself, then I don't have compassion. And what Panskep's learned is that there is no joy mechanism. Compassion doesn't happen in a primal state. It's a very elevated state. And compassion, like with any faith tradition, compassion is the hallmark of human noble man. And when you're disabled, what they want to do is make you other, not noble, a burden. And a lot of the ways that in history disability has been represented is very flat. The Miserables, there's a whole musical about that. So I'm not miserable, but yes, I have chronic pain. I'm not miserable, but yes, my childhood is not something I'd wish on anybody. I'm not miserable, but I don't have the use of all four of my limbs like a normal person. But I do survive, and I survive in joy. There's no way to live in this world without joy and thrive. And so despite all of the boundaries, despite all the barricades, despite all of the bureaucracy that's involved in Medicare, Medicaid, voc rehab, even Paralympic sport, all of that is just another form of telling me that I'm flat, I'm miserable, I'm not, classifications and differences, all of that, I'm different. What's different about me is I'm still here. And I'm here because I focus on what brings joy, which is farming, having the goats, doing physical activity, and avoiding talk therapy. That brings me a lot of joy.
I can really respect that. And I love a lot of what you're saying, Neil, especially there's no way to live. The only way to live is in joy. I thought that was incredibly poignant. I might get that on a t-shirt. That's fantastic. I love the connections that you're drawing between being in community and then also being able to experience that joy that traditional support structures have not given you. And frankly, the ones that are set up now do not give joy, do not give prosperity or success to many disabled people.
And to qualify, literally to qualify for any of these programs, you have to perform misery, you have to perform suffering, you have to perform, especially with nonprofits, you have to perform disability, you have to claim it. And they want to, especially in workers' comp, they want to make sure you're miserable. Because if you have any sense of living a good life, then you're milking the system, or like there's all this language around milking the system. I went to Hawaii once, and I literally had someone from church saying, well, aren't you disabled? Like that was immediately out of their mouth. Like, you went on vacation to Hawaii, aren't you disabled? What is that? I mean, really, let's examine what that knee-jerk response to a disabled person traveling to one of the most beautiful places on the planet as a second-class citizen, a ward of the state. I don't deserve that.
Yeah, it's really curious, isn't it? And not curious in a good way, how people feel that they can like police the affairs of disabled people, or what we do with our money, what we do with our time. It is very frustrating that mainly non-disabled people tend to have just one view of disability, and they miss all the beauty and the joy in the facets of our population. Neil, this brings me to my third question. What do you want the general public, what do you want other people to know about disabled life and disabled quality of life?
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that most of the advances we've experienced in technology, most of the advances we've had in social justice, and all of these things that we've needed, including Madison writing the Constitution, like all of these people were different. And in today's terms, they needed IEPs. Thomas Jefferson never went to law school. He was homeschooled. Madison scrawny, not your alpha male Trump-like, not a good man. He was effeminate. George Washington was a dandy. When we look at these men closely, they do not fit today's rigid standards of what a man is able to do, not just in work life, but in all aspects of life. And so differences and diversity has been a story the whole time. We evolve when we adapt, and people who adapt have differences that they have to adapt around. And when we pull together, this is to everyone that's not experiencing life as a disabled person, when you help those people meet their goals, like cutting the curbs for the wheelchairs, then you will never trip on a curb again. It helps everybody. It is a common problem, just like sexism, just like racism. It is a problem to be fixed because everyone will benefit from it. Some people will live longer, true, but you also won't trip over yourselves. So let's all get together. Whatever your problems are, we can look past those and we can work together on these really basic civil rights issues. There are some basic civil rights that are being violated today that are needed amendments. There are things that need to change.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot that needs to change, as we both well know. Thank you for your answer. And I really love what you say. We evolve when we adapt, and thus the differences that adapted people might have are not bad things. It's frustrating to be seen this way. Neil, thank you so much for your time. My last planned question is one that I ask all of my interviewees. What recent win are you celebrating and that we could help you celebrate? Or what like things are you promoting? If you were your own cheerleader, if you had to brag, what would you say about yourself? This is your soapbox moment, so go all out.
I'm not prepared to answer that question.
Okay.
So my win would just be that my goats are happy right now and no one's crying anymore. The barn is quiet.
That sounds very peaceful. Thank you so much, Neil. I'm glad that you can find these things that work for you. I know how difficult things have been for you, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
All right, my friend, thank you for your time. Audience, thank you for your time. I'll see you back here soon, and I'm rooting for you, too.